Hello everybody, Eridos here again, and today we are doing another Let's Paint. Today we are doing Bomechan from the game Ninja All-Stars. No, excuse me, I'm just a little tired, so... Anyway, as you can see, I already started off by putting her in a nice gray primer. And then, I'm pretty sure I discussed primers in a previous video, but for those of you who are new to the concept of primers, allow me to explain. Primer basically makes the paint stick better to the figure. And the color of the primer will actually be a good reference to what kind of color scheme you're going for. For example, if you're using pure white, that would be good for very bright, colorful characters. Neutral gray like this is more for like darker colors or characters that are basically more evil per se. And then black primer would be more for mechanical detailing. Like for example, if you're going to use black and then dry brush gray on it to give it a mechanical feel. Anyway, I'm just gonna start right off by painting Bomechan here. And we're going to start by painting her skin, and we're going to use a bit of a Flamingo red. Gonna make sure I have this hook up here. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible here because there's not much to do, and I'm not sure how much battery or memory is left on my camera. So, I'm going to dip my brush in the paint here. We're going to go around her face. We're also going to do her hands and her legs here, which are exposed. As well as her horns. I'm not terribly worried on getting anything else because the gray is mostly just for what will be shown through the paint, giving it darker tones. Anyway, once we're done with the red, we'll move on to the next step. And we're back. Certain complications came up, so I couldn't continue filming after I was done with the red coat. So we're going to try to continue from here. I have some wild iris here, which we're going to use to paint her kimono. Just like that. We're going to try to paint as much of it as possible. Considering this is a new bottle, I don't know how well it actually coats, so... Anyway, just getting started on that. And I'll cut back after I'm done painting. Okay, as you can see, we have the wild iris color on her kimono there. I also forgot to mention we also have to paint this part red as well. Now we're going to take some nice grape purple. And we're going to paint her sash around her stomach and on the back, because it's supposed to be a darker color than the iris color, giving it a little bit of a contrast to the rest of the outfit. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to paint the sash on camera here. I need to actually look closely at it in order to make sure I don't screw it up. So we're just gonna cut here and go to the next step. Okay, it might be a bit hard to see on camera, but there is the contrast between grape purple and orchid. So we got most of it painted on. I still have this little area over here because the red's kind of peeking through the purple, so I need to dry it a bit more before I start painting it up again. Anyway, I'm going to take some pavement color, not actual pavement. And we're actually going to start painting up her weapons, which I believe are kanabo, but could be wrong. Might be a different type. Anyway, we're going to paint this one entirely in pavement. We're also going to paint the handle of this one in pavement. Okay, so I'm just going to cut here and go to the next step. As you can see, we got her kanabos painted. I also forgot that her little stockings had to be painted too in the same paint scheme as well. Anyway, now that we're done with that, we're going to move on to the next, which I'm going to take some gray. And we're going to dot the little spikes on this one right here, as well as do the little loop on the end. Again, this is something that's going to take a bit of concentration to do, so I'm going to probably do it mostly off camera, so we're just going to cut to the next step. As you can see, the studs are painted nicely on there. So now, oh, knocked her over there. We're going to go on to the next step, which is we're going to take some gold, paint the studs on our other kanabo, the loop on the top of it, as well as all of the trim around her costume, which is going to take a while. I'm also going to take the time to try to paint the red around her stockings, including the parts of the feet I covered over during painting them. So yeah, I'm just going to take my brush, just carefully paint that up there, and we're going to paint that right there. The whole bottom has to be gold, and all the trim on her kimono has to be gold, as well as the ribbon on the back. And once I'm done with that, I'll get back to you. Yeah, we had a little issue there. As you can see, I did all of the gold highlights. Unfortunately, I was filming the next section, but the record button did not work. So anyway, you can see I used a little light brown for the wraps in her ponytail. And now we're going to start painting her hair in white. I'm really disappointed that the camera failed to record the next segment, so I'm basically skipping a step because it didn't show it. But again, pointing it out, painted that, painted it on camera, camera wasn't recording. Anyway, we're going to paint the white on her ponytail. Be careful not to paint over any areas we don't want, like for example the ponytail area, the horns, or any of the dress. So I'm just going to cut back and we'll do the next step. Okay, we got all the hair painted. Did do a little touch-ups around here. Next steps, and I'm going to go through this off camera because this is a lot of detail work that's going to be hard to do on camera. But let's get this started. I'm going to take some black. I'm going to start painting the base. I'm going to dot some black in the little loops on the kanabos there. I'm also going to start painting the black around the eyes. And then I'm also going to start painting the mouth with a little bit of white for the teeth. And then some dark pink for the mouth to contrast it against the skin. I'm also going to paint some ivory on the two little skulls on her hair and the skull on her shoulder right there. Now then, painting the base black is not the final step for it. Basically, painting it black will just be a base coat for what we need to do when we actually paint the base. So I'll get back to you when I'm done with that. Okay, as you can see, after a little touch up and everything else, we got the black in there. We got the eyes just about painted. I have the lashes in. I put in the whites in the eyes too while I was at it. We have some ivory on the shoulders and the hair. And I do believe we are ready for the next step. Had to mix some paint here for this. So I'm just going to lightly dab just a little bit on my brush. And we're going to paint her eyes. Now then, this is a very delicate procedure, so I'm going to just take this off camera for a second. And just carefully paint in the eye. And there we go. Both the eyes are painted in. That's just the first step. Next, I gotta clean off my brush, make sure I get the tip reestablished by lightly brushing it on. There we go. Gonna use some black. Just easy. And just dab a light bit, and we're gonna go and paint in the irises. Again, have to do this off camera. Considering how little we're using for the paint, it dries pretty quick. And there we go, her pupils are painted in. I said iris before, but it's her pupils we're painting. Okay, once again, clean off the brush, which I have the sheet I'm cleaning with over here. Okay, now we're going to take some white, just shake that up a bit. Again, dab very little onto the brush, just right on the tip, and we're going to paint a little bit of reflection in there. Okay, and there we go. Her eyes are now fully painted. Got a little bit too much white on the right eye there. I have to go back in with the black and fix that. Okay, so while I fix her eye, I'll cut here and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, fix the eyes. Now we're on to the next step, which we're going to need a larger brush for. I'm going to take some granite gray. And we're gonna dry brush along the edge of the base here. Just gonna dry brush the base just a little bit. There's a bit of wood right here. When we get to the wood, we're gonna dry brush it in a little mid-range brown, but for the most part, the base just has to be lightly brushed in granite gray. And I'll get back to you when I finish. Okay, base isn't exactly how I want it, but it's fairly close enough. I also went around the edge to just touch up the base just a little. So basically the miniature is just about finished. But there is one last step we need to do. Because, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's just that little tiny logo right on the front of the base. So we're just going to make sure to touch that up. I'm going to try to replicate that little symbol on the edge there. So basically, we're going to bring up close and just paint some red right there in that little spot. Make sure we get all the edges that we need. And then Clean off my brush. And where is it? Here's the white. Dab just a tiny little bit of white right in that dot in the center. Just gingerly. And there. That's done. And Bomechan is finished. Anyway, my brush. I hope you enjoyed this. Oh, one step I forgot. I need to take some pavement. And watch the shaking there. Gotta dry brush just a little bit right on the edge of her horns. There, now she's done. Anyway, that is my Let's Paint, and I will see you again next video. Bye!